Hello everyone, my name is Jeanette Camping from Henry Stewart Events, and we're delighted that you've joined us for our latest Creative Operations webinar, the Hybrid Agency Tango. It's great to see 200 Creative Ops professionals from 16 countries registered today. Just a couple of housekeeping points before we start. We'll be taking questions at the end of the presentation, so please send them through via your GoToWebinar column. And we are recording the webinar, and you'll all be sent to the link to the recording tomorrow. Now, I'd like to hand you over to Nancy Murray from Deltek. Nancy leads solution engineering at Workbook, Deltek's global agency management solution practice, designed specifically for advertising, creative, and digital marketing firms. She's dedicated to the delivery of exceptional data intelligence and best-in-class products to service-driven agencies. Nancy has a comprehensive background in radio broadcast, enterprise-level organizations, communications and agencies, as well as worldwide technology transformations for over 20 years. Thank you for joining us, Nancy. Over to you.
Thank you so very much, Jeanette, for the introduction. I want to sincerely welcome everyone for joining us from 16 countries. This is really exciting. And we're about to talk about the hybrid agency Tango. So what does that mean? In-housing, relationship between brands and agencies, who should do what, and really re-strategize how to best structure this for you. So we called it Tango. Well, let's dance, right? So sure, it'll be complex. There's going to be lots of awesome information, but we can certainly do all of this in sync while maintaining flexibility, agility, and get things done together. So first, I'm really pleased to be introducing you my good friend, Vanessa Edwards. She's the president of CPI and management consulting for both agencies and in-house. I've known her for nearly 15 years now. Doesn't make me feel any younger, but this is, prior to starting this consulting practice, Vanessa was also the owner and CFO of an awesome high-growth digital shop in Portland, Oregon, that was acquired in 2010. So just great expertise all the way around. And for the last decade, CPI has helped hundreds of agencies and in-house improve organizational agility, operational resilience, and embrace analytics to improve decision-making. So we've asked Vanessa to focus today on continued evolution and potential future of in-house, right? How to get things done and things structured. That expertise works with both agencies and in-house teams. So she gives a really unique perspective on both high-functioning and dysfunctional hybrid relationships. It would be great to hear that. And instead of just repurposing data from publications that we know like Quad A, HBR, Forbes, we've asked her to share expertise, her opinion, and models based on what she's seen on the street working with clients. So I'm going to kick it over to Vanessa to unveil this awesome content. So one thing, I'll be back to handle the Q&A at the end. And for the audience, don't be shy. Please, please, please send your thoughts, your feedback, your questions, your comment. We need that interaction. Take it away, Vanessa.
Thanks, Nancy. That was a great introduction. I hope I live up to that intro. Before I get into the meat of it, I think it's important for all of us to find some common ground. And that is that in-house is important, it's evolving, and it's here to stay. With that said, there's no need for me to read off the quotes on this slide, as you probably live and breathe them every day. However, I'd like to highlight the quote from Lego's CMO, whose organization does 95% of their work internally, yet still finds it valuable to work with outside agencies for particular types of projects. So the real question is, so what makes or breaks a successful collaboration? I want to dig in a little bit deeper on this. So let me start off with a 70-year-old quote, which is enlightening and comical at the same time, definitely by today's standards. So as you can see, in-house, it's come a long way. With that said, I do think it's important to draw some distinctions between the various incarnations of in-house, something we at CPI internally call 1.0, 2.0, and hybrid. These distinctions are important, and they're going to act as a framework for the remainder of our discussion. So 1.0 is represented in the first column, and it's what most people think of as in-house, and it's really focused primarily on the reduction of cost, the increase of speed, and the increase in control over the brand. However, 2.0 emerged after the Great Recession of 2008, which saw brands double down on the cost reduction. Of course, we know why. But as you can see, it also focused on some other really critical aspects that were emerging at the time. Now, we're starting to see the emergence of what is colloquially coined hybrid, right? So I'd like to share my perspective of what makes hybrid special, specifically where it works and why. So what I'd like to show you next is a visual framework for what I call the hybrid pyramid. At the risk of offending anyone, I've named the base of this pyramid the frenemies tier. Okay, the frenemy tier is what many of you have been living for the last 20 years, where brands and their agency partners often find themselves competing for budget, resources, and recognition. I believe that we must evolve beyond this frenemy tier in order to consistently produce impactful, world-class creative and marketing programs. So the next three tiers of the pyramid are what I actually consider true hybrid, and these include the alliance, integration, and in some cases, co-location tiers. One thing I'd like to point out is that there are two distinct tracks within the hybrid pyramid, one being the brand-led track and the other being the agency-led track. If you're not sure which track is best for you, don't worry. We're going to explore a framework that uses marketing spend and marketing complexity near the end of the presentation that should help you. All right, let's get started with the agency-led track. At the bottom of the frenemies tier, we'll start with the full-service agency of record relationship. In this first model, we have the legacy of brands outsourcing everything from strategy to execution to a single agency as part of an agency of record relationship. In these AOR relationships, the agency often works hand in hand at the most strategic level with the in-house marketing team, which is typically senior and focused on defining the marketing objectives and insights as well as managing the agency. Additionally, in order to lower costs, in-house teams often few mid to junior resources focused on tactical creative production, developing mostly internal deliverables or takedowns of an agency's concept. This model normally gives the marketing decision-making power and responsibility to a single agency for fully delivering on the marketing objectives, while in-house teams tend to focus on strategic oversight of the agency and executive stakeholder buy-in. For brands with increased complexity, but not a ton of spend, this can be an effective relationship, allowing them to tap into a multitude of experts without the burden of additional overhead and staff. As you can see, there are a limited number of pros here. However, having an agency as a partner who brings honest outside perspective and knowledge of cutting-edge marketing trends can be a huge win for brands. However, as you can see here, there's quite a few cons to this model, including that agencies may recommend executional solutions that fit the departments they need to feed, rather than the best approach to solving their clients' objectives. Remember that saying, if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail, well, that can be a problem here. In addition, brands often pay for agencies' inefficiencies and the need for them to learn about their industry competitors and markets. In my experience, most AOR relationships do not turn out to be win-win in the long run. Agencies often find themselves overworked and underpaid, or brands find themselves being overcharged for the quality of the work that they are getting. So let's move on to a slightly better frenemy scenario where the brand has a lead agency of record who likes to bring some channel expertise and execution, but prides themselves on being a neutral party willing to work with other niche subject matter expert agencies. While the brand still owns marketing objectives and insights in managing the multitude of agency, the AOR agency tends to own the Marcom strategy through creative development, working with the specialty agencies for media, digital, or social channel strategies and executions. One of the things that makes this model very effective is that you often get the best of both worlds, right? On one hand, the brand now has access to a diverse pool of subject matter experts while also maintaining the benefits of their AOR relationship. This means that the brand will often get a better balance, honestly, of advertising, content, channel strategy, and channel execution. So this is clearly a step in the right direction. Unfortunately, this may mean that the brand spends a disproportionate amount of time and energy managing a stable of agencies, as well as trying to keep their agencies from, I hate to say it, but competing with each other for marketing dollars. This really happens. Compounding those challenges is the inherent complexity of managing their integrated campaigns across multiple agency partners. This can be exhausting. So what's worse is the complexity of today's marketing is making this model increasingly unattractive. So let's just go ahead and move on to the first tier of hybrid. I call this the alliance tier. Specifically, I'm going to talk about the agency-led alliance model. Why do I call it alliance? Good question. Because alliance is defined as a union formed for mutual benefit, which is exactly what this tier should be. I consider this the first true win-win relationship in the pyramid. In this model, the brand recognizes that they need to bring specific channel strategy and execution in-house in areas that have been deemed critical to their future success. I often see this happening with content, digital media, social, email marketing, among other things. This manifests itself with brands hiring channel experts who can live and breathe the brand day in and day out. So let's talk about the pros of this model. When brands bring their priority channel strategy and execution in-house, they can more easily bridge the gap between brand, consumer, and industry knowledge and their channel strategy. In addition, it often benefits brands to bring the creative development of their priority channels in-house to increase speed to market, and it creates cost savings. So what I really like about this model is that the brand and the agency partner share in both marketing responsibility and accountability. However, one of the biggest challenges of this model is the increase in complexity when you split the channel strategy and execution between the agency and the brand. This requires substantially more project management and integration to ensure successful multi-channel campaigns. One scenario I actually got to witness was a complete breakdown in alignment between a brand's channels and their agency, and that resulted in a brand's customers receiving 15 different messages in a single day with 15 different calls to action. Needless to say, this did not go over well with the CMO. And did I mention this was a Fortune 500 company? So obviously that's not good. Now let's move on to the next tier of hybrid. I call this tier integration. Specifically, I'm going to talk about the agency-led integration side. So why do I call this integration? Well, it's defined as the blending of things into a functioning and unified whole, which is exactly what this tier should be. I consider this one of the most ideal working relationships for agencies and brands on the agency-led track. This model is an evolution from the agency-led alliance model we just discussed, where the brand now takes on ownership of research and consumer knowledge needed to fuel their marketing insights, as well as their analytics and reporting. This allows agencies to do what they do best while allowing brands to focus on the customer journey and the lifetime value of clients. So let's talk about the benefits of this model, of which there are many, right? While the brand still has all the great benefits of the previous alliance model, they now have the additional visibility and control over full circle analytics and reporting. They can now link marketing campaign metrics to their other in-house data sources to measure the full customer journey and determine marketing cost per acquisition. This holistic view into the customer insights and journey allows brands to be agile in their priority channels and allows them to optimize quickly. However, this model only makes sense at a certain level of marketing spend and complexity, as you can imagine. In order to make this work, brands now have to hire and manage a multitude of experts in-house, even if they don't consistently have enough work for all of that headcount. In addition, only brands and agencies with strong project management disciplines will be able to efficiently navigate these waters of increased integration. I imagine you can see how that would be an issue. So that wraps up our agency-led track, okay? I want to jump now over to the brand-led track. Starting back, we're going to start back at the bottom of the pyramid with frenemies. At the bottom, in this frenemies tier, we're going to continue with full-service in-house agency model, okay? Similar to the agency-led track, in this model, marketing leadership still drives the marketing objectives and the insights, with the in-house agency replacing the typical AOR relationship, leaving little room for external agencies. In this scenario, brands have brought almost all the work in-house and are only using agencies for small special projects or flex support for their in-house agency. Recent trends have seen brands hiring former agency leadership to lead these in-house agencies, thus attracting big name talent and fostering credibility with internal stakeholders. This model allows brands to have full marketing decision-making power and responsibility. However, it also means they have the additional burden of cost and overhead. For brands with higher marketing spends and less complex marketing needs, this can be an ideal model. With the in-house agency living and breathing the brand, they can more easily align the brand to the channels on day-to-day execution. Being part of the brand, the in-house agency has easy access to stakeholders and can often turn work around more quickly. In addition, these brands have a holistic view into the customer journey and are able to better optimize using that full circle analytics and reporting we just discussed. However, the brand channel strategy and execution is limited to the team that they have on staff, of course, right? So with the complexity in marketing these days, if you can only afford one person to manage digital, for example, this means you won't get experts in all your digital channels and therefore may miss out on opportunities to effectively market and optimize. In addition, I've seen talent get tired of working on the same brand day in and day out, and they often get stuck in a rut, they're just unwilling to push the boundaries or stay cutting edge. So let's move on to another in-house frenemy scenario where you do not have, you don't have an in-house agency, but rather multiple in-house departments combined with a creative studio. In this scenario, we tend to see marketing departments operating in silos, okay, often working on their own channel initiatives as well as the integrated campaign work. In addition, so these departments are serviced by usually a creative studio, tasked with the management and production of creative deliverables that are going to be used by all those marketing departments. Similar to the in-house agency model, there's little need for external agencies, which are mostly used for special projects or flex support. So this model is ideal for brands who prefer what I would call a channel-first approach, and they would often have fewer integrated marketing campaigns. So this model has most of the benefits of the in-house agency model we just discussed, while being organizationally less complex to manage. The structure empowers each department to utilize channel best practices to reach their audience in a faster and more agile way. Unfortunately, this channel-centric approach, it comes at a risk of prioritizing channel best practices or metrics over the brand's messaging. I've totally seen this happen. And I've seen channel departments post content just to increase the channel metrics that their department is being measured on, rather than post content that drives the current brand's priority initiatives. So now we've got competing interests, right? And these competing interests can cause cultural issues and frictions across the marketing departments. Additionally, right, in many cases, marketing department budgets, they're misaligned with the annual marketing plan, which can result in some departments being overfunded and others being underfunded. So this means that certain departments, they may not be able to produce all of the deliverables needed to meet the marketing objectives or the plan that's defined for their department. Obviously, this is not good. So from there, let's move on to the first tier of hybrid on the brand-led side. This is what we call brand-led alliance. Similar to its twin on the agency-led side, this model is designed to form a union of mutual benefit, though led by the brand, where the brand still keeps most of the work in-house. However, they also use specialty agencies for specific strategy, creative development, and execution of certain channels. These tend to be channels the brand doesn't use as often, or channels that require a variety of expertise, which the brand may not be able to fully fund. Just like on the agency-led side, this hybrid relationship is really the first true win-win on that brand-led track. One of the biggest pros with this model is that a brand can take advantage of those specialty agencies, their channel expertise, and they do that for those less used channels without taking on the burden of additional headcount. And of course, as you know, that can often be very difficult to get. This allows brands to test certain channels without a major upfront capital investment, right? Then if the channel becomes a priority with high volume, they can make the investment to bring that expertise in-house. In my experience, this is where I've seen specialty agencies and brands thrive, because it allows specialty agencies to do what they do best and brands to in-house only what actually makes sense. Unfortunately, when specific channel strategy and execution are outsourced, you have to contend with competing interests, as well as potential misalignment of those channels with the overall marketing objectives. So in addition, it's also more difficult to manage integrated work through both the brand and these specialty agencies. Often the specialty agencies are not as agile as the internal channel teams, which can lead to missed opportunities, maybe inconsistent messaging across the channels, and customer confusion. So now that we've covered brand-led alliance, let's move on to our next hybrid tier. So similar to its twin on the agency-led side, the brand-led integration model is designed to produce, quote unquote, that blending of things into a functioning and unified whole. However, led by brand this time. So again, this is one of the most ideal working relationships for agencies and brands that are coming up that brand-led track. This model is an evolution from that brand-led alliance model we just discussed, where the brand now partners with agencies on the campaign strategy and planning through the big idea development and that creative concepting for more complex initiatives. A great example here, I mentioned before, is when Lego who currently has a 400-person in-house agency, partnered with BETC Paris to launch their new global brand campaign. Lego actually found that BET's outside perspective, fresh ideas, and ability to deliver globally was the best fit for their needs. But in true hybrid fashion, BETC worked hand in hand with the Lego in-house agency throughout the entire campaign. And that, offering a great example of sort of this integration model at its best. It's easy to see the pros, all the pros of this brand-led integration model. While the brand still has all the benefits of the previous alliance model, they now have the ability to leverage their partners' outside perspective and cutting-edge marketing knowledge when needed. Also, they get to keep their pervasive knowledge of brand, consumer, and regulatory to maintain brand and marketing alignment. However, the biggest risk to this model is that the agency doing the campaign strategy, big idea development, and concepting could develop ideas that are misaligned to the in-house channel strategy or capabilities. So for example, how often has an agency, I hate to say it, come up with a great idea that is impossible to execute with the available budget and expertise of the in-house team? This results in brands having to defund some marketing initiatives in order to fund the agency's idea rather than pay for an idea that never comes to fruition. But when I've seen the agency and in-house relationship act as a symbiotic partnership, this misalignment really, it's just not even an issue. What I do know is that both the agency and the brand must have strong project management disciplines to efficiently and effectively manage campaigns through this integration model. Without that, things can definitely go sideways. Now let's move on to the pinnacle of hybrid, co-location. By co-location, I do not mean the old school model of having a single account director or two on site working with the marketing directors and managers to quote unquote get more business. What I mean is the addition of co-location to either the agency-led integration or brand-led integration hybrid models that we just previously discussed. This model of co-location is not designed around cost savings. It's about bringing together the best of the agency world and the best of the brand to produce the best marketing programs. This can take on multiple forms, but at its core, co-location is having a dedicated on-site team made up of in-house and agency resources that collaborate daily. The co-location model aids in increasing strategy alignment and collaboration. It improves the effectiveness of teams and attracts better talent on both sides. However, while co-location is the pinnacle of the period, it's really not right for everyone. This model only makes sense for large, likely global brands with the most complex marketing and extremely large spends. It's for brands who spend a lot of money with their agencies and have the pull to get agency resources on site full-time to increase integration and improve ROI. It's really for the lucky few. But if you're one of those lucky few, this co-location model has many pros. As an evolution of that agency-led or brand-led integration model, co-location creates a cohesive team with bi-directional access to agency experts and internal stakeholders while improving the strategy and ideation and increasing speed to market. Also, this co-location model reduces the complexity of project management work through the brand and agency sides, increasing the overall agility of the partnership, which is so important these days. However, this is by far the most expensive model and only works for large brands with the most complex marketing and biggest spends. In addition, this model can be extremely difficult to implement operationally and culturally, and it's a really big risk if it doesn't work properly. Co-located teams also, they can lose creativity, outside perspective, and their edge over time. Phew, that was a lot of content. Thanks for staying with me on that. My goal really was to weave together a lot of information from a variety of sources, but combine it with my own experiences of what I'm seeing in the market. And I really hope that I've done a good job for you today. If you can walk away with one thing, it's that I believe that in-house is here to stay and that it's going to evolve into hybrid over time. With that said, there isn't a one-size hybrid that fits all, and it's important for you to know what's right for you. Having said that, let's jump into this image of the hybrid Tango. If this is the first time you've heard this content, it may be a little bewildering to figure out where you fall today and where you should fall as you move towards hybrid. So we've created this magic quadrant to help. The two axes are marketing spend and marketing complexity. I found that the higher the marketing spend, the bigger the value is for brands to bring this work in-house. Likewise, I found that the higher the marketing complexity, the better it is for brands to lean on their agency partners. With that said, I've populated this magic quadrant with all of the models that we've just discussed. So now it's time to take what you've heard today, assess where you are, and determine where you ultimately want to be and which model is right for you. Back
Vanessa?
to you, Nancy.
Yeah, Vanessa, this was fantastic content. And personally, I really love that last agency Tango, and I think that you know, we are going to provide assets. And by the way, I know one of the main question was, will the slides be provided? And the answer is yes, we will do that, of course. And really the focus on the different tiers of in-house and where you see it going was fantastic. So thanks for the expertise, your opinion, and also the on the street, you know, real life example. I think that that's very valuable. So I hope that it looks like everyone has stayed with us. This is really fantastic. We've got lots of questions. So if you don't mind, I can go ahead and capture a few questions from our audience today. And of course, we're all working from home suddenly, right? How do you recommend co-location scenarios in times of working from home? And thank you for that question. Do you think that it's going to really work well? Like, how do people can collaborate effectively, right?
That's a great question, Nancy. That's a great question. I think that one of the other big reasons for co-location isn't just the on-site premise, although in the past that's been a huge piece for people, but it's also almost the branding of a unit, right? A lot of times I see these co-locations actually have their own brand, their own name, the way that they work together. I think that, you know, even if you're working with an agency, a lot of times you're only talking to the account director and you're forbidden to get directly to a creative or any of the people doing the work. I would think even in the work from home, it's a completely different model of how that group works together, because they are a group together. Even if they're on Zoom all day, they're all talking to each other as a group, not with an account manager being between them and many other people. I hope that. So I think while it will be just as hard as the rest of us doing it, you know, putting that co-location together as a team, almost branding them as a specific team, and then defining how they work together differently, that's, I believe, what really is going to make it.
So that's a really good answer. We're having a flood of questions coming in suddenly, and I want to just mention that everything will be answered if we do not have the opportunity to cover everything right now. So let me cover another you know, opinion and the question that people are asking here. So are you seeing that assets and data that are scattered across different entities and marketers realizing this doesn't serve their best interest? So, you know, in each and unique situation, marketers can centralize control of execution, right? Activation, tech platform of their own data. So how do you manage that? To have everything in one place, for example?
I think this is absolutely one of the biggest reasons for the brand-led track. I completely agree with that. That I think that, you know, that model, we mentioned the Frenemy model of the AOR plus niche agencies, that piece has become a huge problem. And, you know, data is another big piece. Owning your own data and being able to do those full circle analytics, owning your own, being able, and not just owning, you all own it all, but being actually to have access to it immediately at any time and to be able to act on it. That's one of the biggest reasons, I think, for that brand-led agency track. You know, or the brand-led track, excuse me, hybrid being the best part of that. So I would absolutely agree that, and I think even for some brands, some industries, financial, pharma, where you can't just hand your data over to your agency, it's even more important for you to be bringing those things in-house and to be consolidated those things in-house. And I think that's, again, like I said, huge reason for why that brand-led track is very, very, very important. Both tracks are, I think, just as valuable. I would just push everybody into the more hybrid version of those tracks.
Vanessa, just to complement a little bit on that question, are you seeing as well, for example, if a brand has multiple agencies and multiple agencies have to collaborate and assets have to live somewhere, do you feel that, have you seen brands manage centralization of all the, for security reason, right? The assets on their own and collaborate on one platform with all agencies? How does that work?
Yes, yes. So I think that if you're on the agency-led track and you're more in that integration, that's when the agency is typically providing some type of software related to that. But if you're on that brand-led track, absolutely, you want to own that. And that is where I mentioned this needing to increase the project management discipline, really up-level the project management discipline, which includes MarTech, things like, you know, like our Deltek platforms, where you have digital markup and routing, and then honestly pushing your agency to be, if you're working with an agent, pushing that agency to be working within your programs so that you can keep everything together. I think that's a really important piece, and I feel like it's always worked the other way around, but with a democratization of MarTech, I really feel like that's been a huge push and a big piece for the brands to be able to be up that brand-led track and to own these pieces. But in doing that, they have to have the disciplines, not just the technology, but the discipline to do that. And the other time I see that really becoming a problem, right? It's a people, process, technology with siloed departments. They often really struggle in internal to project manage this work, including all these the digital markup routing, all the different pieces of this. They struggle to project manage that across these siloed disciplines. So from a process perspective, making sure that those brands have good cross-departmental processes for integrated work. There's two ways to get work done, right? There is channel-specific work, and then there's cross-channel work, right? And so you have to be thinking about them two different ways, because how you project manage those is not the same. So a technology plus good process on that, it works brilliantly for that track.
I'm just going to take a quick segue, and I don't know, you know, if we can ask another one or two questions here, but with, you know, the past 6 months, right? A lot of brands have decided to really rethink the strategy for, you know, the next decade even. Have you seen a trend in companies, brands reducing how many agencies that they partner with?
Yeah, I would say absolutely. I would say I think it depends on which model you're doing. So I would say that if you are still in the old AOR model, I find that a lot of people are moving from that AOR model, and then they weren't getting the best, I would say, channel strategy and execution. So they moved into the AOR plus niche agencies. And then some of them jumped over to, okay, I got to bring these tracks in-house, so I'm going to actually bring these channels in-house. But I would anticipate that when brands see this, I'm hoping when they put themselves, you know, in that hybrid Tango Magic Quadrant, that isn't necessarily where people are today, but I believe it's the ideal of where they should be. And I do think that they may reduce the number of agencies that they're working with, unless if they go up the brand-led track, that may be the case, or if they stay there, they may be working with specialty agencies for those channels. But I do think it's exhausting managing a ton of agencies, and I think it's much more difficult. I think it requires a lot of project management and across for those brands. So in general, I believe that it works better for them to do that if they can still get everything that they need.
That's a great segue. One quick last one, Jeanette, you can stop me if I'm going too far here, but and it's a great segue to end. You know, here's a question. We're an agency of record relationship, and we want to change that, and we want to bring some work in house. Where do people start?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good question as well. So, you know, I would recommend targeting that sort of agency-led alliance model, right? So just that one track up into hybrid. So you need to start by identifying the trend, like your spend towards your organization's highest priority channels, right? So figure out what work you have there that you're outsourcing to that agency and what that means you're going to need to bring in-house. But in true partnership, I recommend that you got to sit down with your AOR agency, right? Sit down with them, show them this concept of this alliance-led, agency-led alliance model, and talk to them about the fact that it's really going to benefit you as a brand long term to bring these certain things in-house, and that it's not about it's about evolving the relationship, not about cutting their spend, or cutting their budget, which is what agencies worry about because they're always staffing to that. Make sure they know that you want to continue the relationship, but that you need to grow that internal expertise in-house for those channels, and then talk about how are you guys on each side going to elevate the project management needed to be working these things through each of those different departments or groups and teams.
Awesome. I know that we're, running out of time. We're going to let people go here. There's a flood of question. Again, if we haven't gotten to your question, we'll get back to you. You can count on us for that. We will make the slides available as well as an asset, as well as the quadrant for that Tango. I'm certainly excited to start dancing again, that's for sure. A couple things that are staying on my mind here, things like frenemies, 1.0, 2.0, and Tango, right? So culture is important more than ever. And I think it's really important to focus on that as well. So Jeanette, I'm kicking this over back to you. And this was really, really exciting, guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Excellent presentation. Thanks to all our attendees for listening. We'll be sending a link to the recording tomorrow. And we hope to see many of you at our future events and webinars. Thanks again, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you.